Welcome back. Good morning. Good afternoon. Welcome back to the piano. It's over here, I promise. Today's the day. Today, we're going to record your first sound. Yes, I'm excited. Hopefully you're excited. And I need you to know something before we even open Reaper, okay? It's going to sound worse than you think. It's gonna. But it's not a sign that you're bad at this. It's not. It's a sign that you're learning, and we're going to walk through it so gentle. So gentle. You're doing great already. Okay, so before we record anything, we need to understand how sound actually enters the computer, right? Like, how do we get this to there? And there's a few different ways, so let's talk about that, right? Your voice is one of the ways that you can get sound to the computer, right? But you're going to use a microphone, for sure, to get that from here to... Let's back up. You need a microphone. Did we talk about that? By the way, you're probably going to need a microphone to do this job. The job of audio engineering, I'm not going to push a bunch of gear at you, but you're probably going to want a microphone. If you have an acoustic instrument, again, that microphone is going to be really helpful for us because, yes, your voice counts as an acoustic instrument because you don't need anything electric to make it make noise, right? The microphone captures air vibrations and converts them into an electrical signal. And that's what your computer can understand, right? The signal is usually really quiet, and it may need a preamp, which your audio interface provides. And if you're using a microphone, you'll plug it into the interface, not directly into your computer if possible. By the way, do you have an interface? Should we talk about interfaces? I think you should maybe get one. Okay, so interfaces, we're going to take a slight hop off of our three main points today, but we do need to talk about interfaces because they do matter in the sense that people are going to tell you they matter a lot more than they do, as in this is another time when experienced producers are going to let you know that they know better or that they know the right way and that the way you're doing it maybe is wrong and bleh, and we hate to hear it. So I'm going to tell you, I started with the Presonus Audio Box 44SL, and it was a 4-input. It had 2 mic instrument inputs and 2 mic line inputs, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But it was very cheap at the time, and I thought, this is great. I want you to follow your heart. It's never led me astray. My interface has been great this whole time. I actually bought another audio box later in life, a USB 96, and it only has 2 mic/instrument inputs, but it's great. They're doing the job. It's all about how many inputs you need. How many sounds are you recording at the same time is sort of the ultimate question there. And for most of you, 2 inputs is going to be plenty. Okay, back to what we were talking about, which is obviously more important. It's the 3 ways of getting the sound from to the computer, right? We talked about the microphone, which is going to be for things like your voice, guitar, amps, an acoustic instrument, perhaps, room sound, all of those things. You need a microphone. Cool. But what about a line input? What if we don't want to record something acoustically out in the open? What if we want to record something directly from here to there? I pointed at the microphone, but I was trying to point at this keyboard right here. You can't. You can also do this with a synthesizer or a drum machine, or electric guitars can still go direct through the interface. You can plug it into your interface, so you're still not having to deal with recording all of the room noise, because, by the way, there's room noise. And when you're making a recording for a piece, you don't want it. You're gonna... And that's things like ceiling fans, your ACs, your neighbors, your dog. There's all kinds of things that you hear all the time and you're probably not thinking about it, but let me guarantee that a microphone will be thinking about it. It will be thinking about all of them all at once, and it's very intimidating. Okay. Second point about line inputs. These are what these are called, by the way. When you can plug something in and go direct, it's a line input. And line input signals are stronger than mic signals. They don't need as much boosting, and the signal is normally clearer. Like, it's a cleaner signal path. But you still need to have level controls, but it is a cleaner signal path. So we like that. Okay, the third way that we get to the computer is called MIDI, and that's MIDI. MIDI is different. MIDI is not sound. MIDI, I mentioned that my keyboard can go direct, and it can go directly and with just normal sound, or it can go directly with MIDI. MIDI isn't sound. MIDI is information. When you press a MIDI key, you're sending instructions like a note or the velocity, which is how hard you have hit the note on your instrument, or also the length of time that you held down that note. These are all pieces of MIDI information. So the sound comes in a virtual format into your DAW, and you can manipulate it a lot, and we will definitely be talking about MIDI manipulation later on, so don't feel like, oh, that's a lot, and I should have taken more notes, what do I do? We'll talk about it a lot more, I promise. So I want you to think of the 3 ways that we can record things in like this, okay? I want you to think of the microphone as recording the air. I want you to think of the line input as recording electrical signals. And I want you to think of MIDI as recorded instructions, because it's specific in that way. This alone cleans up a lot of confusion as far as I'm thinking and concerned. You think so? Yeah? Now the next thing that I want to talk about is setting your input levels. Okay? I want to talk about the thing that scares everybody, and that's levels. When you record something, you'll see a meter moving up and down, and I'll show you in just a moment. But here's the thing I need you to know right now before we even open it up and look at it. You don't need it to be loud. You don't. You don't need it to be close to the top. You do not. And also, you want it to be comfortably below it being anywhere near clipping. And we will talk about clipping like immediately. Okay, so clipping is what happens when the signal is too loud and it exceeds 0 decibels. That's a really weird way to word this. Let me tell you a different way. It's what happens when the waveform gets chopped off. Because the waveform will come in and you'll see it make a little waveform, and I will show you. But then if it's too big, it gets clipped off of the space that is being held for it. Look at this, how there's no way this wave is going to fit in this space, right? Right, it gets clipped. And it makes a really bad distortion. You've heard things clip before. You probably just didn't know what it was you were hearing. But it's not cute. It is not analog warmth. It is just a digital panic attack is what clipping is. It's your computer going, but I can't hold that sound. It's too big for me. Blech. Only you can prevent clipping, and you can do so by leaving a lot of what is called headroom, okay? So for beginners, we're going to aim for your loudest peaks hitting around -12 dB to -6 dB. If you don't understand those numbers yet, that's okay too. Just make sure it's never hitting red. Your signal should have a gauge. When it bounces, you should see green, yellow, red. Or maybe even just yellow, red. But you just definitely need it. Just keep it away from the red. It's not too hard, but red is too much. But that's literally it. That's literally all you have to worry about with clipping, is just don't let it get red. Okay, so now, again, before we hit that glorious record button, I need to step us into the future after we have hit record. You hit record, you perform, you listen back, and your brain goes, huh, that didn't sound like I expected it to sound at all. Right? This happens. Here's why that happens, right? When we hear ourselves here in the real, right, you can hear bone conductivity. It's bone conduction. That's what you're hearing, right? When you play it back, you're hearing raw audio. Raw audio. So that's no compression, no EQ, no reverb, no processing, no polish, no anything. It's just what the audio sounds like. Just the truth, right? And the truth feels really, really harsh. Also because you're not used to monitoring yourself, you're noticing every single flaw because you've never done that. And you're performing under a sort of pressure that you've sort of preconceived for yourself. That's not failure. This is exposure, right? You're just showing yourself this is what it sounds like. And every producer that you admire and producers that you have been listening to recorded something that made them cringe, or do often. I do all the time. The difference is you don't quit after you hear it. You just don't stop. Don't let that spook you. And this is an actual skill, by the way. I think it's a true skill set, okay? It's not recording, and it's more about re-recording really calmly. So I'm going to give you a little process, okay? So after we make our first recording and you listen back and you're cringing and you're like, don't delete it. Don't delete it. Just hang on. Listen once. Identify one thing that could be improved on. Not the whole thing. Don't just say this is trash and throw it away. Let's be scientists about it. Let's be reductive and think, how can we fix this? But just one thing. Just one. Maybe it's the timing. Maybe it's the volume. Maybe you were too close to your microphone. Maybe you were too far away from your microphone. Maybe it was your confidence and you just know you have a better take in you. Cool. Now that you've identified that one thing, do it again. Like, as in, make the recording again. And don't do it all angry. We're not here to prove anything to anyone, right? Only ourselves. And we're just doing it because production is iteration, not emotional self-destruction. Okay? You're not trying to capture perfection. You're trying to capture options. Because, by the way, in Reaper, every single time you record something, it gets cataloged and saved into your files where you set it to save at the very beginning when you set up your options on where to send all your save files to. I mean, because you did that at the beginning. It does it for you automatically. So if you don't know where that is, go to your preferences section. And I did a walkthrough video on how to set this up. It's on Patreon for sure. Anyways, check that. And it'll be there. So the whole point is just keep making takes, and then eventually you can go back through those takes, and there's probably one that you really like. So don't be afraid to just sit and give yourself a lot of options and think of it that way. And it's a lot cooler than thinking, man, I've had to do this 40 times and it still doesn't sound right. Because let me tell you, I've done some things 40 to 50 times and they still don't sound right. Okay. I know I said I was going to show you a bunch of stuff in Reaper, but I actually feel like the conversations that we've been having this whole time are a little bit more important, right? Like the pre-task planning checklist and not freaking out when it doesn't sound great and understanding our options of how to get the sound there, I feel like is probably more important. So I'm going to give you a little closing practical first recording checklist. And then next week we'll do a live demo of recording something together. Or perhaps we'll give it to the patrons. Because, by the way, I love to give things to the patrons. Okay, so our practical first recording checklist. This will not take long. Okay, so here we go. We're going to make sure before you record again that you have your mic plugged in correctly to the correct input. We're going to make sure that your phantom power is on. If you're using a condenser microphone, it will be very obvious that you need that because nothing will come through if it's not on. We're going to make sure that your gain is set so that you're not clipping, right? Like we talked about. Make sure it's not going into the red on your meter, and we will do the demo and I'll show you next week. Also, we're going to make sure that your monitoring level is comfortable, as in what you're hearing in your ear is comfortable and you can understand what you're hearing with what you are recording, as in tandem you understand what you are seeing and hearing at once. Makes sense, yeah? So then I want you to breathe, record, stop, listen again, adjust one thing, and repeat. That's it. I want you to just keep doing that. So that's it. Your first recording isn't supposed to sound like Spotify or some big massive production. It's supposed to sound like you're beginning. It's supposed to be a little awkward, a little flat, a little strange, a little bizarre. Good. It's a great place to start. That means you've officially crossed into thinking about production because